Oh, there's some song.
Sorry about that. The morning singing has begun with my dogs. Okay, we've got 18. Shall we get started, Marilyn?
Yes, let's go ahead and get started. I think we may have some other
All right.
but we've got good content today, so lots to get through.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. If you've been on these forums regularly, and welcome to any of our new members and partners who might be joining us for the first time. My name is Deb Radman, and I am your forum moderator. Let's go over a few ground rules. Use your mute button so that you are, we are all protected from background noises like my singing dogs. And if you have a question during the discussion, we ask you to submit it via the chat feature, and that is at the middle bottom of your screen. And just click on it, and you can communicate with people individually or with everyone. I ask you to put your questions or your comments there, and I'll try to get to you as we go through the discussion. And of course, the forum is being recorded. Notes, resource links, and anything else important that we've discussed during the forum will be shared later today. Our learning objective today is really to tap into where we are on COVID-19. What are the hot topics? How fast are things changing? And also to take your pulse to kind of figure out where you are and how you're coping. And we want to learn from each other because we know we are not all alone or isolated. We can help each other based on experiences you're having currently in the field. We're going to talk about some evolving issues today that are impacting the industry as well as the labor and employment question, share best practices, and today's subject matter experts have just really, really rich content to share. So as you hear what they have to say, if you're not hearing what you need to hear, please be sure to ask a question or make a comment and give us feedback. We want to make these forums as relevant to you as possible. And with that, I'm going to hand this off to Marilyn, who will introduce our very wise and dedicated subject matter experts this morning. We are very happy to have you all.
Good morning. We welcome back Kristin White with Fisher & Phillips, attorney at law. She's going to be sharing with us sort of top of mind things from a COVID and legal and employment and labor and employment perspective. Kristin was not able to join us. Micah Dawson filled in for Kristin at the last member forum. So Kristin, we welcome you back, and thank you for having such a great team to have bandwidth behind you. I know you were busy on other important things that day. Also joining us is Leland Gutierrez. Leland is the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee with IEC. This would normally be our bi-monthly diversity and inclusion meeting. So Leland is going to be sharing some of his experiences, very COVID specific this morning. And we invite the contractors and other industry partners that are on the call to also feel free when we get to that point in our program to share and exchange information. As Deb said, we're in this together and we're learning together as we continue to move forward. And we also have a special guest today, Joel Perriott from the Adams County Workforce Development and Business Center. Joel and his team work very closely with IEC even before COVID, and he has some really great information to share with us about opportunities for businesses to engage with workforce centers, both now, specifically because of COVID, and in the future. To sort of set the stage, I have a couple of data points that I wanted to share. I regularly listen in to the governor's press conference, his briefings on COVID. Yesterday happened to be COVID and the wildfires. And I just wanted to set the stage today with a couple of things that are happening in Colorado regarding the increasing spread of coronavirus. One of the couple of the data points that he shared, most of us have all heard over the last few months that the World Health Organization and CDC recommend that our positivity rate be less than 5%. Over the last week, Colorado's has spiked to 6.4%. So we've seen a significant increase in getting over that 5%. And again, under 5% is the goal. And currently we are at 6.4. There are also 290 hospitalizations. That number has doubled since early September, and the 290 hospitalizations is the highest rate in Colorado since May. The governor
Is that per day, Marilyn?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is that per day? Is that per day?
It was, yesterday's 290 hospitalizations was as of yesterday. And the point was that has more than doubled since early September. And the 290 is the highest daily rate of hospitalization, yesterday's number since May.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, he focused on, the governor focused on safety and consumer confidence. The governor talked very specifically about restaurants and hospitality and other venues, making sure that they can continue to remain open and that the economy can continue to remain open. So in order to increase consumer confidence, it was really about making sure that everyone is following safety protocols, because that then helps others as well, and is going to continue to help us be active in the economy. I loved that he said that we all know what to do. Like, we've been hearing this since March, we all know what to do, but he asked everybody to really double down in the next 2 weeks so that we stop this increase, this trajectory of growth of coronavirus, because not only in Colorado, but in other places, we've heard a lot of discussion around making sure that we're able to see family at Thanksgiving, but with flu season, with cold weather, with the holidays coming up, we need to make sure that we can curve that amount. I happen to live in Boulder County, and I know that Boulder had a significant increase a few weeks ago. Boulder really tried to lock things down for a couple of weeks, and it's made a significant difference just even in one county. The growth right now in Colorado is coming in Adams County and Denver. Sorry, Joel, I don't know what we're doing in Adams County, but heck. And I can say that because IEC is in Adams County, but Adams County and Denver seem to be the biggest cause of spread. So wear masks, wash hands regularly, sanitize surfaces, and the governor asked that we reduce social interactions just over the next 2 weeks. Doesn't mean to go back into stay-at-home mode by any means, but if you've expanded your network to 10 or 12 or 20 people, maybe lock that back down to 3 to 5 over the next 2 weeks, and double check, do I really need to go out on this errand, or do I really need to have this gathering of 10 or 12 people? Can it wait for a couple of weeks? So those were his advice. Those were his pieces of advice to share, but specifically the data of wanting to make the turn. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Deb to get into some of the detail that our subject matter experts have to share. But I wanted to present that landscape because it's been a while since we've had that kind of data update on COVID. Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Marilyn. And because it's been a little while, and because we've been living with this for many months now, it's always prudent to circle back around and see where we are. As Marilyn said, we all know what to do, but are we all doing it consistently? And look at how it's impacting our contractors and our partners. So with that, I'm going to ask Kristin to kick us off here with what she is seeing top of mind regarding COVID, and anything specific we need to be more diligent about.
Yeah, good
Take
morning.
it away, Kristin.
Yeah, nice to be back and see everyone this morning. Yeah, we've been referring to it as COVID fatigue. You all probably have as well, right? Where we're just all getting tired of hearing the same things. But when I was thinking about this morning, what's top of mind, what have we been dealing with? I mean, it's the same, issues that we've seen. So we're still getting a lot of questions about pay. So what pay is in place for individuals who become sick with COVID? Especially with healthy families and all the changes that are coming next year. So I'll talk about that in just a minute. And we're still getting the exposure questions. So we still see a lot of those coming in every day. Not as many from the health department. That seemed to be a real push a few months ago. Although, as we know, the counties a lot of times have their own orders in place. And so like Marilyn said, how Boulder kind of tightened it up a few weeks ago. So that's something to be aware of, that, the counties have gotten more involved as this has gone along. One of the other things I was thinking about top of mind, because I've got kids in DPS school, is that, we were looking at going back to school in a week. And now, what we heard is that elementary is going back, middle school and high school is delayed again until November because of those numbers that Marilyn just spoke about. So I think the child care issue is still on everyone's mind in the background, that you got a lot of people still balancing child care with work, and then now with these increased COVID numbers and what that looks like. So, hang in there. I think that COVID fatigue is real. I think we all feel it. We're ready to be done, but these laws are still in place, and we're still seeing the exposures. From a construction angle, I still get calls from, especially my subcontractors, because they will find out that another contractor on a site had a positive case. So they're wondering, okay, who of my people were exposed? Who do I need to be paying? Some of the questions we get, is if the general contractor comes in and just shuts down the whole job site, do I then have to pay my people? And potentially not, especially under, families first. It depends on, exposures. So, we're still kind of walking through that analysis of, just because a job site gets shut down, that doesn't automatically trigger payment under FFCRA. So just be aware, that, we're still kind of having to walk through those scenarios. You'd think we'd have them all down by now. But just want to remind everybody, what is in place from a payment standpoint. What Healthy Families, when it passed a couple months ago, did is said that from, July through the end of this year, Families First, which is your federal paid sick leave, that is in place for all Colorado employers. So make sure that you're still complying with that, which is your 80 hours for full-time employees, but it's got those very specific, scenarios, basically 6, but it kind of, moves down a little bit. If someone, has COVID, has symptoms, has childcare issues, it's very specific scenarios as to, when they get paid, which is why I say, if you just have a GC come in and shut down a job site because one person tests positive, that may not trigger the payment obligations, to your employees. So just be aware of that. And at the same time, we're dealing with the, that next in January, Healthy Families and the new paid sick leave law kicks in. So what's going to be interesting is that, make sure everyone's aware, Healthy Families has kind of 2 provisions, right? So Marilyn, we've got our call tomorrow morning where we're going to go in depth on this, but just to highlight, you've got your traditional paid sick leave hours that now we have a minimum in Colorado for the first time, the 48 hours. But it also has that public health emergency part, where if there's a public health emergency, and the way the proposed regs read is that employees have to have, full-time employees have to have 80 hours immediately available. So we're assuming we're still going to be under a public health emergency come January. I would not have said that a few months ago, but now I think we're all coming to terms that that's where we're going to be. So we may, we've been helping employers rewrite policies, check your policies, make sure you're in compliance. But if we're still in that public health emergency, you've got to have that extra trigger in your policy. So just be aware of that, that someone, has 80 hours this year, January 1, that clock is going to restart on likely 80 hours of paid sick leave under public health emergency if we're still under it. So a lot of changes to come. So I think that's been really keeping us busy, Marilyn, is just, helping people, we get a lot of questions of what's in place now, what's in place next year, because it is confusing. And, and we still pull up, we've got proposed regs now from the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment on these, on healthy families. We're supposed to have hearings coming up, I think I think 1st of November, I think. So look at those regs and participate. This is a state organization. They will listen. So I'd encourage people, if you don't know how to make comments, we do that for clients. I'm sure Marilyn, I don't know if you as an organization, if you all are doing comments on it, but, I know that the chamber, I've heard from one of my clients, is planning to comment on it. So, they will listen. So if there are some problems in those regs and things that really are creating issues, let's make sure that, we get those in front of the CDLE during hearing. Because the final rules, once they come out, which will probably be December, that's what's in place for us come January.
Wow. Not back to normal yet, are we? We're still needing to recalibrate.
I know, exactly. That's why I said it's hard to even say we'll still be in this in January, but I think we're all coming to terms with that a little bit now.
Yeah, and I think that there is, again, just something to safeguard against, and that's a little bit of complacency or a feeling that maybe this is over and our new normal is here. Again, I think we have to be vigilant, and that's really what you're suggesting. Has Fisher Phillips got anything on diversity and inclusion that we could include in the resource link or that you'd like to speak to? I know Marilyn is adding a couple of links, one to the Fisher Phillips COVID Resource Center, and then another from a diversity, from your Fisher Phillips diversity and inclusion about unconscious bias into your company's consciousness. That's hard to say this morning. Tell us a little more about that, the latter.
Yeah. So we actually, we as a firm, everyone took a conscious bias training. I guess it would have been in the spring. And now we kind of made it available to our clients. And, that was the first time I had taken it myself. And I found it really interesting taking this training. So yeah, I mean, we've been encouraging, clients, if they have questions, if they want to put on those programs, but like I said, we took it ourselves as a firm, I think we made it mandatory for everyone to do. And, like I say, it was really eye-opening even for me, right? I mean, as a woman, I think, I don't have these biases. But, that's why they're called unconscious bias, right? Because you don't realize you have them. And so, I think that's something to be aware of, especially now, as we're working remotely. I think those can creep up more. So I'm really glad that we actually did that training before, because it just, it makes you kind of check yourself when you start to assume someone acts a certain way because of their race or their gender, or, they have kids, or, whatever it may be. It makes you kind of check yourself and go, wait a second, why am I assuming that that's what's happening? So I would encourage it, people that if they're looking for training for their employees, it's a good program.
Is it available directly through the link that we're going to put in the notes, or is it somewhere else where if people want to know more or want to sign up can go to?
Yeah, I'll have to look and see if it is available on there, and I can follow up with Holly if we have a link or if it's something that we provide. But yeah, I'll look and see with that training. But yeah, it's been, like I said, I would definitely recommend it. We found it really valuable for us. And Deb, one other thing I was going to mention I forgot about on COVID, I was looking at my notes, was when we mentioned about people, as kind of, we're still in this pandemic, is thinking about the governor's order, symptom checks for workplaces. All that is still in effect. So just be aware of that, I mean, we do it at our office. I know we're all thinking, really? I still got to take my temperature every day? Still in place for offices. Temperature checks, symptom checks, the limits, the 50% for offices. I mean, I know with construction sites, you're essential, but you still got to be doing those, the cleaning protocols and everything like that. So, all of that, we're still under that safer at home and the great outdoors order that. So those are all in place. So we don't think that those have been relaxed.
Great. Thanks, Kristin. This is a sobering reminder for all of us that we need to just keep sticking with it. So Leland, let's talk about what's going on with you. You have a specific COVID situation that you could speak to from an employer perspective, including working on an ongoing basis with Tri-County Health. Tell us what that's about.
Yeah, so in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks or so, we had a site where an employee had went home, was sent home because we do symptom checks, we do temperature checks on the site as they come in and check in and sign in. The employee did not feel well, actually did not leave his vehicle, so that he had certain symptoms, and the foreman actually sent the individual home, recommended they get tested. And from there, we started our contact tracing, and this is a site with probably 20 or so electricians on site, maybe a few more just depending on the week. But the individual then went home, was tested, and we started contact tracing, and they all wear masks, they all wear their PPE. They are working in a pretty large corridor, I guess you would say. There was probably 4 or 5 individuals working in that area. One by one, they started to exhibit symptoms and were getting sent home and getting tested. Before we knew it, it was probably about 3 positive cases within 48 hours or so, and then it stretched to 9 positive cases. I actually was impacted by it because I had been out to the site multiple times for various reasons, and I can tell you, even wearing a mask and hand sanitizer and keeping distance from individuals, it's kind of nerve-wracking to start exhibiting symptoms shortly after. So I was then tested as well. It did come back negative, which was good, but also not really, it didn't really tell me very much because it said that I did not have COVID, but I had flu-like symptoms. I had just gotten my flu shot about a week before. I was tested for strep throat, just various symptoms that I had made them believe that I should definitely get tested, and the exposure to this site. But this site took out 9 people. They're all back to work right now. They have, we did have some, I'd say 4 or so that tested negative on the site. But of those 9 that were positive, everybody's back. We did get in contact with actually Denver Health, I believe, at first, and then it was given to Tri-County. So Tri-County reached out to us. We've been giving updates and filling out a spreadsheet with information on everyone. Just giving all the information. We had to give phone numbers and contact for those individuals to double check on those. And we'll be doing that for another 2 weeks just to make sure we're in the all clear. Right now, we are not really able to find the origin of how it happened, but we were able, after speaking with each individual, to find out that it spread from maybe 1 individual to 4 to the total of 9 due to ride sharing or carpooling to and from the work site, and then lunchtime. So they would have lunch with each other, and they would be spaced apart, but obviously you take off your mask, and that's kind of how that all mixed together. We did have a couple that were of high risk, but so, the good part is that everyone has made a recovery. Everyone is back to work. They were out for the total 80 hours, some of them a little bit more than that. And for those that did get tested, some of them, if they did not want to get tested, we let them know that we would reimburse them and basically pay for the test if they could, just to make sure that wasn't an issue. So kind of it's our first one. There were other trades on the site that were impacted, not sure on their numbers as well, but we're not sure if it came to the job site or if it was brought in or where it originated from. But that's where we've had stricter guidelines now around lunchtime. If they're having a lunch break, not congregating in a communal area. I believe they would hang out near the where their tools were at, the gang boxes, certain areas of a parking garage, and they would have their lunch, or they would leave the site and come back. So that, the carpooling was one of the ones where, they're wearing a mask on site, but we had to let everyone know that as soon as you leave your house, I mean, you're introducing yourself to other people, their families. If you're sick, you're introducing it to them that they can bring home to their children, spouses. Increase awareness around that. PPE, making sure that they all have hand wash stations, sanitizer. We have additional masks. We got out additional masks to hand out to everyone to make sure that they have that, and more than one mask. That was one of the things. Is I think a lot of people had given out a mask, or maybe had a mask, one or two masks that they wear, but you're working 5 days a week, sometimes even more. It just doesn't really cut it. You can wash them every day, but in reality, they probably need at least 5 masks for the week to wear. They're sweating. The fogging of the safety glasses has been an issue, so we looked into and procured some anti-fog safety glasses. Just want to make sure that everybody's wearing their PPE and that they're not that they're not wearing it because they're fogging up because they're wearing a mask. So that's kind of like a hard thing to tackle. But we have our foreman walking the site, constantly double checking. We've also been doing this, but we went to a stricter policy around temp checks even for our office. Everybody does their temp checks. If you have any symptoms at all, it's just stay home. We'd rather you stay home and not come into the office and try to make it in. And unfortunately, these individuals, they had shown up to work but did not enter the job site, did not enter the gates because they didn't want to miss work. But we had to send them home and let them know that, any type of symptom like that, fever, cough, sore throat, any of the major ones, they basically had to go and get tested. So we're not out of the woods on this, but we're going to keep in touch with Tri-County Health. Our HR managers keeping a report together. We track everybody daily from the contractor perspective across from Fort Collins to Castle Rock, every project. So anybody that is feeling symptoms or is sick or pending a test, I actually keep a log of all of those. So that way we can go back and then we can double check. We even go as far as if one individual may be exhibiting symptoms and then if there's 2 other people on the crew, we proactively keep them out just to make sure that we're not sending people back in. Okay, you can work with another crew right now because you're not feeling sick right now. Maybe 2 days later you might, and we've just spread the pandemic and the virus even more. So,
Kristin, you have a question. You want to toss that out for discussion?
Yeah, so Leland, did you, we've seen other contractors institute carpooling bans. Did you all do anything along that line since you found out that they were carpooling? That may have been one of the ways it spread.
We definitely have let them know and warn them about the dangers of that. I wouldn't say we have a specific carpooling ban in place. Most of our apprentices or leads will operate either a company vehicle or personal vehicle. Not that many of them are actually carpooling that we know of. Some of the individuals are actually taking public transit right now for those who were not able to, they don't have a vehicle to get to work. Our multifamily site is out of Aurora, so it's pretty close to an RTD station or a stop or so. So they are generally able to get there. We haven't really put that in place, but it's something that we let everybody know because we have had some situations where some crews, if the lead does pick up the apprentice and takes them to the job site in the van to basically, give a ride and save money on gas, that we have seen that basically now one person may be sick, now you're taking out the entire crew because of the ride sharing. So it's something we should probably look at.
Yeah, that's one of the things I had. One of my subcontractors had called me because they've got a job and it's in another state, but the prime or the general on that had put out policies that no carpooling and no living together, which for them that was a big deal because they don't dictate they don't provide housing, right? So what the general wanted them to do is provide separate hotel rooms for all the employees. And what this company, their policy is always that they just give you a living stipend, and then you decide, do you go rent a house or do you rent a hotel or whatever it may be. So they don't dictate that. And so it's really interesting because they were having to, the kind of push back a little because the general wanted them to provide separate hotel rooms. And some of these guys had already like rented a house together, or some people brought their families and rented a house and for this long-term project. So yeah, it's interesting because, the conversation we had is, well, obviously a general can put whatever they want in the contract, and you have to then kind of push back or decide what you're going to do. But yeah, that was the first time I'd seen the living issue. And I think that's good. I think if the numbers keep going up, we may see that issue come up more.
I would say actually that was a part of this situation. We did have a father and son crew. They do ride together, they do live together. So that they both did test positive, but that is a concern because of the father-son crews that we have. We have quite a few of them. Some of them do carpool together, and if they're living in the same household, it's pretty safe to assume that one is going to get the other one possibly sick. And that's, it's hard to, I guess, we wouldn't be able to have them separated if they're permanently there. So
yeah, I mean, it's one thing to encourage and recommend. It's another, right, to kind of mandate, and then how do you even enforce that? And yeah, it gets real sticky. Like I told that client, I said, obviously they can put whatever they want in the contract. You can push back, and you've got to figure out what you agree to for this job. But yeah, I think that's a hard one it's a hard one to enforce at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We have, along the lines of, the emergency paid sick leave, we had, since it went into effect, I believe April 1, the 80 hours, we had been doing that. And early on, we had seen that some people would observe or exhibit symptoms, COVID-like symptoms, and then they would be out, they would get tested. For a while they were doing like telehealth. They weren't actually doing testing for a little bit, and then they started doing more testing. But we had found that some people had been out maybe and used that 80 hours already. And now we're starting to see that they're actually testing positive now. Not sure if it's from a lax, taking things a little bit lax and being out in public. I'm not sure how it's happening, but we are seeing a lot of people visiting family, whether it's in another part of the state or out of state, and then coming back, and then they are now testing positive. So we know that we've warned and brought a lot of attention to that, to let people know that when you go to a baby shower, or you go to a wedding, or you go to something that's a family gathering of some sort, they're not going to wear masks. They usually are not wearing masks, and then somebody for some reason is going to get sick, is what we've seen, and they bring that back into work, and it's a couple days before they actually start feeling that. And then we have a spouse that's infected, we have a crew that's infected, and we have other people, that coworkers that they've come in contact with. So we're asking people to caution when they go into family situations or personal situations where you think it's just fine. These are my family. I don't need to wear a mask.
Right. Wow. Lots of things to learn from, and you are the first, I think, among us that have had such a significant outbreak. Thank you, Leland, very much, and Kristin too. It's, and if you guys, tomorrow, as Kristin mentioned, there will be more discussion on the BJ4C paid sick leave with Kristin and one of her colleagues, talking about that in greater detail. The links to that session will be in the meeting notes. Okay, time to move on to Joel. Joel, thank you so much for being here today. And we have a long list between us of the things that you are going to help address, but specifically what is going on with COVID that workforce centers in Colorado are experiencing with the businesses that you work with.
Well, now that I'm thoroughly depressed with this COVID talk, that was kind of scary talk. I'll tell you, I just got out of a Tri-County Health meeting last week, and they talked about moving us from level 2 to level 3. And if that happens, there'll be new restrictions put on some businesses, and it would be very similar to what we saw early on in this COVID crisis, where retail, food and beverage, and hospitality will be hit really hard. And those three businesses do have a ripple effect into the rest of the economy. So just moving from a level 2 to a level 3 will be very hard for especially the Adams County economy. Like you were saying, we're kind of one of the worst violators. And I know the county economic development has been tasked with changing that. So what we've been seeing on the Workforce Center side is we are used to having pots of money to help job seekers and pots of money to help employers. And usually they're kind of the same pot, people that are dislocated, laid off to no fault of their own. We have money to train people to put them back to work, right? Or help them get some training. Well, now with COVID, there is some emergency disaster relief grant funds that has been given to the workforce centers that we can now target employers that are changing what they're doing in order to stay safe, in order to stay healthy, and because of COVID. So like a couple of things that we can do is if any employer is doing some temporary hiring, temporary meaning during COVID, because we know how COVID is temporary. We have no idea how long this will last. But if you're doing some hiring because you need to take temperature takers, we had to do that at the Workforce Center. We had to hire staff just to take the temperature and man the front door with customers and with staff. So those are temporary staff. We can help you pay for some of those staff, specifically the training. So what you basically have is like a half price employee for a while to take temperatures. Or if you're doing extra sterilization or cleaning because of it, like at the Workforce Center, for instance, we have job seekers come in and every time they use a computer and leave, we have 15 minutes, we have to sterilize and clean that workstation before another person can use that. We have somebody that just has to go around and clean those areas. So if any employer is hiring staff just to do extra cleaning, we can, again, help pay for that, help pay for the training. And I heard somebody doing contact tracers. If you are hiring somebody to do contact tracing in order to find out where some of the origins of some of this, we can pay for some of the training for that as well. So all that COVID related. Then one of the new things that came up is Larimer County has started this, and we're looking to get into this because we see a need the longer this lasts. If you are doing some changing of your business plan, if you have to change your business plan because of safety, if you have to look at maybe changing even a temporary plan, and you have to hire a consultant to do that, or you're putting somebody to work to do that kind of changing of your business plan, we can again pay the person you hire for you to train them to get up to speed with all the changes they have to know about with maybe COVID, with the Department of Health, with Tri-County Health. So there's a lot of funding that we have that we've never had before at the workforce centers that we can put towards specific training to keep the business safe or to keep the business clean and maintain whatever they need to maintain with the Tri-County Health or with the health department to keep us at level 2. So that's a new pot of money that the workforce center has. In addition to, and again, I want to emphasize that all the employers usually don't know this, all of the services at the workforce center, at every workforce center in the state, are no cost. You never pay for anything when you come to the workforce center. So all this training that we offer, all this assistance we offer is never going to charge you a fee in order to take advantage of that. So, and then the other part that the workforce center does do that we want to make sure that people know that we are still doing is do the regular training, send people to school. If you have an employee that you would like to hire to a higher level, and you know they need a certification, you can send them back to us and we can maybe be able to pay for them to get that training. So now you can hire them at that next level. We call that incumbent worker training. So then it ups the skill. Hopefully what we're seeing is that when you hire that person at the mid-level job, we can then take somebody and maybe fill that entry-level job. We are very invested in work-based learning. Registered apprenticeships, there's pot of money after pot of money, grant after grant coming from the feds. And this has just been in the last 3 or 4 years that we are putting towards registered apprenticeships. So we can pay for the classroom training, the on-the-job training portion of it, maybe even supportive services if they need boots, they need PPE, if they need manuals, something like that, any kind of supportive service that maybe they need, they can't pay out of pocket, we may be able to help them if they're in a registered apprenticeship program. The other thing that we're doing is like internships or work experiences. Somebody needs to learn what it's like. They can either do a job shadow, or if you need a body to do filing, if you need somebody to do phone calls, we can actually hire that person where we're paying 100% of their salary just for them to learn that skill, even if you're not going to hire them at the end of the internship, because now that person has the skill that they learned at the employer. Now we can go back and actually find a job for them. So we're very invested in internships and other stuff that's work-based learning that we've always been able to do. That kind of thing has been put on the back burner, I think, because of COVID, which is kind of sad because I think it still can be used and utilized. It's kind of forgotten about. The other thing that we still have virtual job fairs. We still have virtual hiring events. If somebody's doing hiring, we can help promote that event. Do it online. We can invite job seekers and you can talk to that job seeker face to face. Maybe we can set up a breakout room for you to do interviews with them, and we will bring the job seekers to you. We can also do some screenings or assessments of candidates. If you need assessment of candidates to have a certain math skill or soft skill, we can assess maybe let's say 10, 15 people and give you the 5 who scored highest on a certain type of soft skill. And again, all these services that we provide are no cost. So that's what the Workforce Center kind of looks like now, but we are learning that we need to be flexible and bendable because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know exactly what all the troubles and barriers that some employers are having with COVID and with safety, with transportation and childcare. We understand that's a huge issue right now. So we're trying to get into how we can support that as well. So that's what we look like now. I'm open for any kind of questions.
Joel, is the county COVID resource URL that you provided us here in the chat, is that where we can get more information about each of those programs or grants that you're talking about?
What I talked about is just the Workforce Center. What I put in the chat is the Adams County itself has a resource, has a online resource for everything COVID related in Adams County. You can go you can go to that website actually, and you can find us and get a hold of us. But you can just call the Workforce Center and we will hook you up with whatever resource you need. Because like I said, there's all kinds of different pots of money, and there's a different department or a different department head in the Workforce Center in charge of each of those grants or pots of money.
Mm-hmm.
So 720-523-2400 will get you to the Workforce Center.
Okay. You just set a table that's really laden with all kinds of goodies here. I'm trying, does anyone have any questions they want to ask Joel about, maybe a drill down on some of these things a little bit further? I mean, this is very enlightening. I had no idea there were monies available like that. Marilyn.
Yes, Deb, I just wanted to also share, I mentioned in the introduction that IEC and the Adams County Workforce Center have worked very closely together. And I don't know if it's because it's our home county for our headquarters, or if it's just because Adams County really is this awesome, but they have supported a number of our apprentices and helped them with eligibility, either by paying tuition or those supportive services. We even had a family a couple of years ago that we kind of partnered with back and forth. They came to Adams County referred them to us. We got them in school. It was a family, but then they had a housing issue. So we sent them back to Adams County and they were able to help them, make housing resource contacts. So there's a lot of importance in relationship building. And even if your business isn't in Adams County, it's possible that Adams County can serve you, or Adams County certainly is connected to every other workforce center in the state and can make introductions to you if it's a resource that they aren't available to directly provide. They still are aware of everything that's available. And I don't know, Joel, if you want to speak to any of that, but I just think the relationship piece is so incredibly important.
Yeah, first of all, Adams County has no residence requirement, and there are some counties that do have a residence requirement for their workforce center funds, whereas Adams County does not. So if you want to hire somebody from Pueblo, we can help them. Even if your business is in Greeley, let's say, we can help out with that connection as far as training. The other thing you mentioned, some of the job seeker services, I didn't even touch on those. Things like youth services. If there's an out-of-school youth, we can help those get their GED. or go back to school, get training related there, or get in touch with TANF, if you're familiar with what TANF is, temporary assistance for needy families, those families that might need food assistance, might need clothing assistance. We have a clothing bank actually at the Workforce Center. So those job seekers that are, we like to say we help the unemployed and the underemployed and everything about what help they need, not just find a job, but maybe they need stability to get back on their feet in any shape or form. We either are the resource or we can connect them to the resource.
That's terrific, terrific. Does anyone else have anything they want to maybe ask Joel about, or a specific need that you have right now that is needing to be addressed and you need help with that? Okay.
One last
Joel?
thing. I forgot to mention that there's a lot of need right now also with data. So we have kind of a data expert on our team. So if there's anything you need, as far as you need to know the trend, you need to know the history, or you know whatever, the growth, the economic data, we have a labor market information specialist at the Adams County Workforce and Business Center. Again, no cost to you. You can call us up and say, I would really love to have a competitive wage analysis for these 3 job titles because I want to make sure I'm paying the right amount of money because I can't seem to be able to attract it. We can do that competitive wage analysis for you at no cost. And any other kind of data that you might want to look into, we can either do it for you or find out who can. It is possible. I know a lot of questions have been asked about how many people are on unemployment and in what industry and in what occupation.
Yeah.
That has been kind of difficult to track down because that data does lag a little bit. So like we're learning about April and May right now. What happened in July and August, we may have to wait a little bit to find out, but we can give you some data about the best data we have, we can get to you.
Wow. That is just a lot of support out there with you guys. Terrific. I'm glad I live in Adams County. I like what I'm hearing. If there aren't any more questions, what I would like to do is ask Marilyn to wrap us up. And but one more time, anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make? Oh, okay. Marilyn, conclusions, next steps, and what's coming up on the schedule?
Absolutely. So as Kristin mentioned and Deb mentioned, and I added to the chat, tomorrow there will be a jointly hosted paid sick leave session, excuse me, hosted by Building Jobs for Colorado. Independent Electrical Contractors is one of 13 construction-related associations that are part of the Building Jobs for Colorado Coalition. And for those of you that have been on this call, we've talked a lot about the need to do a deeper dive into the paid sick leave legislation and what it means for you beginning in January and what you can be doing now to prepare. So Kristin and her colleague Todd are going to be talking about that tomorrow at 7:30. There's still time to RSVP. And Kristin, I don't want to scare you, but as of last night, we had at least 150 people RSVP'd to be on this call, which is
Great.
Fabulous. We have space for 500, so feel free to still turn in your RSVP. But it's really important. The reason that we wanted to do this as a coalition is because we wanted all of our construction industry organizations to have the same base level of information. Whether you're a GC, whether you're a sub, whether you're in the electrical or plumbing or HVAC or other industry, we really wanted to have this collective conversation specifically targeted at what this might look like for the construction industry. Not only so that it can be consistent, but people can help each other if they have the same information. So that's tomorrow morning at 7:30. The next member forum will be on October the 28th, and that is our monthly safety session. Again, just like we're taking over diversity and inclusion, we're taking over the safety forums that are typically held. And that focus at the end of October is going to be around winter hazards and driver safety. I'm quite sure we will now embed this conversation around safe protocols for carpooling if you're going to carpool within the industry. And I know that it happens. And I know that because of a lack of transportation for some of our apprentices, especially our younger apprentices, that transportation is a real barrier and issue. So we'll make sure that gets included. Then on November the 18th will be the following member session, and that is going to be a post-election recap. We have a guest from the IEC National Office, the Vice President of Government Relations, and he's also going to be talking about federal policies, COVID-related items, and as a result of the election, as you know, let's all just assume we have the results of the election on November the 18th, as crazy as the world is. We'll be doing a post-election recap, not just on a federal level, but also any kind of state impact, if there's any change in the legislative makeup, what we think might be happening, sort of a very early lens, but preparing us for those items to come. Two other things I want to mention is that on October 28th through the 30th is the IEC National Convention. That would have been held in person in New Orleans this year, but because of COVID, it has moved all online. They are opening up the expo for free for contractors and industry partners to be able to engage. All of that information is on our website and in the emails that you've been receiving. But specifically on October 30th, we are going to host a watch party for the awards, but we're doing it socially distanced. We're doing it as contactless as possible. We are asking that everybody wear masks while they're watching, but we are going to make our classroom space available for anybody that wants to collectively watch these awards together. We know that there is a winner among us, either from the chapter or from one of our local nominees. And so we want to be able to, at a distance, cheer people on since we couldn't be in person. That's the afternoon of October 30th. Then the biggest event that I ask everyone to participate in is on November the 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. That date would normally be our annual State of the Industry Business Dinner and Board of Directors elections. But because we're not going to gather, that would be a 250 person event, which we are not going to do. This year, we're going to make this available for free to all members. And you know how I like to set goals. My goal is I want at least one representative from every one of our member companies. So I do want 250 people, but I want it to be at least one from all of our companies to be part of this annual meeting of the membership, the annual meeting of the Board of Directors, and the Board of Directors elections. So please help us share that and spread that word that we really would like to have that kind of participation, because we're focusing this on there's light at the end of the tunnel. For those of you that are familiar with our instructor team, one of our instructors says there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we know it's there because an electrician installed it. So we're going to focus on light at the end of the tunnel and how we light the way for 2021, whether it's with COVID or not. We are really going to be making this end of the year transition into what is to come for 2021. So thanks for the extra time to promote all of these events that are going on, and we just want to continue to be able to bring us together as an association and provide the content and the information and the data that you need to focus on your business. With that, we do still have a couple of minutes left. If there's any parting thoughts, Deb, from any of our three subject matter experts, we'd love to have closing statements from them. If not, I wish everyone a wonderful day.
Kristin, Leland, Joel, anybody want to maybe do a wrap-up statement? Kristin?
No, I was just going to say thanks for having me. Excited about tomorrow. Sounds like we're going to have great participation. So, look forward to lots of questions and interaction with everyone tomorrow. So yeah, thanks for having me this morning.
Thanks, Kristin.
All right, Leland?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today. These calls are very valuable for our contractor population and industry partners. I want everybody to stay safe out there. Always, be on your most aware of your environment, mindset, and get out there and vote. I think that's the biggest thing right now. Without people voting and voicing their opinion, not a lot of change is going to happen here. And just want to encourage everybody to do that and be safe. And I'll see you all tomorrow most of you will see on the call tomorrow. And I'll be there for IECRM and David Jones Fans Club. So
there is also an election guide that IEC put out this year, which shows some of the legislative candidates that we have supported for a variety of reasons, but also a voting guide that you can share with your employees to make sure that they know how to register, where to vote, sort of an overall view of the process. It's totally nonpartisan in that way. It is only informative to be able to share. But the IEC Government Relations Committee did take a few positions from an industry perspective on some of the ballot initiatives, and those are also outlined in that election guide, which is on our website. Joel.
Okay.
Yeah, I have money. Come get it. There's all these kind of that your tax dollars already pay for, and this is what I was saying even before COVID. Your tax dollars pay for the Workforce Center to exist, to help out employers. Come take advantage of every aspect you can, because there's no cost to you. And my team really is trained on how can we bend the rules, how can we bend our services to make sure we meet the needs of the employers, because that's our biggest goal. So come find out how we can partner for the future and take advantage of what service, again, you're already paying for.
Wow, that's a great way to end. Some exclamation point. Okay, Joel, Kristin, Leland, thank you so much for being with us today. This was information rich and gave us a lot to think about. And for everybody else on the call, we really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning and to share this information out after the fact. We'll get the report to you soon, and also in that we will put the link to the voter guide. So Marilyn, anything else?
No, everybody have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you, and hope to see you all tomorrow.
All right, be safe.
good week.
Thank you, Joel. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.